content as we can to keep you educated and motivated. So today we have UAVenture Capital founder Fletcher McCusker. And Fletcher, a 1974 U of A graduate, started Providence in 1997 with a $50,000 investment, grew the company to $55 million in revenue, and went public in 2003. So we also have our CEO, Liz, who will be doing the interview. So I'm so excited to have you guys here today. We are going to bring them on the screen like magic. Hi,
Morning,
Liz.
guys.
Hi, Fletcher. All right, you guys take it from here.
All right. Thank you so much for being here at Startup Coffee. We are very excited to have Fletcher McCusker as our guest today. He is the chair of our board and also so many more things. So we're very happy he's joined us from his music studio office, calling in Central Tucson. So Fletcher, let's start with a little bit, if you could tell them a little bit more about your background as an entrepreneur. So both Providence and SinfoníaRx.
Good morning, Liz. Hello, everyone. I wish I could see all of you. This is very surreal to be talking to a camera. I get to talk to Liz all the time, so hopefully this won't be too embarrassing. Everything about my life is a happy accident. I just turned 70. That's quite obvious. One of the things about Zoom is you don't get to avoid looking at yourself constantly. I went to the U of A like a lot of locals did. I was a history major. I intended to be a teacher, but it was Vietnam and you had to keep 12 units with a C average and you were going to be drafted, and I could not pass Spanish. Every time I took Spanish, I would be flunking it, affecting my grade point average, and I would drop it. So I did that seriously for 2 semesters. And I went to my advisor and I said, is there some program that I can be in that does not require a foreign language? And he goes, yeah, you can be in healthcare. I said, okay, transfer my ass to healthcare. And that was really the beginning of my career. And, I had great opportunities through college and out of college. I was employed immediately after graduation. I rose through the ranks of several healthcare organizations that many people know about today, companies like Century Healthcare, Columbia, HCA. And in 1996, some 22 years after I graduated from the U of A, I decided I would launch my own healthcare company. And my wife and I were married at the time, had been married for 12 years, and sat down and said, where do you want to do this? And she said, why don't you go home? So we moved back to Tucson. I'd been gone for over 20 years. Our son was 4 at the time. And we launched Providence. And as Kanisha said, we launched it with very little money and a lot of hope. And most people I don't know that we were the first home healthcare business in the United States. So the company exploded. We lived the American dream. We went public. We did several follow-on offerings, and we ended up presiding over $1 billion business, all from Tucson, Arizona.
And then after Providence?
Well, I thought I was retiring. Providence grew to well over $1 billion. We had 11,000 employees and 350 locations. I think most people know we were the second company to move to downtown in May of 2010 when downtown was deserted. We were instrumental in bringing a lot of activity to downtown. You look back at it now and you can't imagine, but in 2010, downtown was boarded up. There was no reason to be down there. And we took a real risk relocating our company there. So by 2012, 2013, I had accomplished pretty much everything I wanted to. My family lived in LA, Orange County now. And, we seriously thought about spending some time with them. And as my CFO, Michael Deitch, and I retired from Providence, the University of Arizona reached out to us. They had just begun to commercialize their own IP. and they were looking for someone they called a business driver, someone who had been there, done that, who could interact with their faculty and help faculty inventors create companies. It was irresistible. I mean, seriously, it was irresistible. So we got to look around campus, and we met this extraordinary group of people led by Kevin Boson. At the time, it was a College of Pharmacy program called the Medication Management Center. We saw a great deal of opportunity with that as a private company. They monitored physician prescriptions, which no one had been doing really at the time. And we spun the company out. We called it Sinfonia, which in Spanish means symphony, and also in Latin means symphony. And it's a story of being in the right place at the right time. Sinfonia exploded. It became the largest pharmaceutical review company in the world. We got to ride the ride again, sold that company a few years later, and that was about the time that President Robbins came to the university.
So after you retired for the second time, and you definitely were moving to the beach this time, then something happened again, and you launched UAVC.
What happened was Bobby Robbins. We had dinner. I think I might have been the first person he told me outside of the hiring community that he met. And we had just announced the sale of Sinfonia, and the university had a significant benefit from that. But moreover, we demonstrated that we could indeed privatize University of Arizona intellectual property. And he said, I want you to keep it going. I really need this kind of boost to our reputation, to our economics. I thought what he meant is that we would pick another company and we would do it again. And he said, no, I want you to do it again and again and again and again. Would you be interested in launching a fund? And I had a pretty passionate dislike for venture capitalists, having spent some time with them. So I said immediately at dinner, well, yeah, sure. Anything we can do to help you. So within days, Michael and I launched UAVenture Capital. We raised about $10 million pretty quickly, because once you're successful, I have found it's a lot easier to raise money again. And we made 5 unbelievable investments in U of A technology. That led us to launch Fund 2. So now, just a little over 2 years, we've invested in 15 U of A related companies. And all of them are doing extraordinarily well, even in the pandemic. You know, we expect something really big, and maybe more important than anything I've ever done, is going to come out of this.
So tell us what type of companies UAVC invests in. They have to have a U of A connection, but what are you really looking for?
We're looking for something that's going to change the world. And you'd be astonished at what happens. And those are the people that are related to the U of A, I think, knew this. But we've always been known as a great research university, top 20, almost $700 million a year of research. But the mantra was to publish, get tenure. You know, you were in fact not allowed to own your own IP. And of course, with that change now, this university's more robust probably than it's ever been. I think for the year just ended, they issued like 350 patents. So again, we got to pick the cream of the crop. We got to invest in things we thought would really matter. A non-opiate painkiller, miniaturized 5G cellular antenna, semiconductor opportunities, a number of investments in optics. You know, our university is the #1 leading university in the world in optical science. We've had our pick of the litter there, and augmented reality and laser guidance systems and infrared. You know, it's extraordinary. So we're not a vertical. We'll invest in anything, and we have, from medical to bio device to pharmaceutical to software. And you're right, all it has to be is U of A related.
So you said you had 15 active investments right now?
Yes, ma'am.
And then Freefall, does that count the new Freefall spinoff?
We didn't count that as a new company, so I think you could argue we have 16, but Freefall was one of the first investments we made. These guys have miniaturized 5G transmission systems, satellite communication, extraordinary inventions. If you know anything about 5G, you know that the power of 5G is going to diminish substantially. Current cell tower can broadcast 4G for miles. 5G, however, is measured in meters. So it's going to require an entirely new antenna infrastructure system. And our friends at the U of A may have just invented the product. So they've created two really neat inventions. One is a satellite communication antenna, which they've tested at near space. And the other is a 5G antenna that's about as big as, piggy bank. And, it'll broadcast 5G for 2,000 meters. So we split those companies, spun that off. And, we're working with a lot of really neat companies, like Verizon and Google, Ericsson, and others to develop those products.
Cool. Are there any other companies that you're currently invested in that you're particularly excited about?
Regulonics, a young pharmacologist at the U of A, invented in his lab a non-opiate painkiller that is very effective in the lab and in rats. There are a number of pharmaceutical companies interested in that drug. Freefall, we think, is going to change the world. A company we nicknamed EarDog, enhanced augmented reality display glasses, invented by U of A Optics. We think is going to change the way people use augmented and virtual reality. There's a lot of interest in that company. The new laser company we just announced a couple weeks ago, can create a countermeasure for heat-seeking missiles. So we're working with the military on that. So we're having way too much fun for people our age, but it's really made a difference, I think, in the community at a time when there wasn't really an innovation ecosystem.
Yeah.
I think all of this is interestingly connected. Everything you're doing, everything that university's doing. There are now 3 venture capital firms based here. 2 years ago, there were none. There's a lot of interest now in our community. Tucson was tied with Austin last year as the city with the most tech job increases. And then the bullshit pandemic, so. Yeah. But what's interesting about that, and Forbes released an article recently that, Tucson may be a top 10 city to migrate toward post-pandemic. And once again, we're on the radar of people that are looking at places to settle that encourage innovation and entrepreneurship. So
absolutely.
This just may be our time.
So following up on that one, so what do you think in particular about Tucson makes it a good place to launch or grow a company?
Well, a lot of things. One is the weather, the outdoors, the ability to be outside literally year round. We talk to people constantly. They're either flooded or snowed in or shoveling or dodging a tornado. And we're blessed. We just don't have any of that. Economically, this may be the cheapest place in the country to launch a company from in terms of rent, housing, finding employees, access to the university. So we believe part of what we represent, especially if you're trying to start up a company and you're looking at Palo Alto or San Diego or Austin, we're probably a fifth of the cost of launching a company in those areas. And we're hip, God help us. Somehow we became a hip community with downtown.
So tell me a little bit more, Fletcher, about how UAVC, you and Michael and your team work with a company once you decide to invest in them.
Well, a lot of venture capitalists just write a check. We had some that just wrote a check and then they'd call me every day, pestering me about what I had done with their money. Knowing that these are faculty and they, not unlike me, they never really fashioned themselves as company CEOs. We spend a lot of time with them strategically. What kind of company do you want to be? Where do you think this is going to go? Are you interested in just developing your IP and then we license it or sell it? How can we help you? Who are your partners? What can we do to advance the product? Everything from banking to budgeting to accounting. We're with our partners. And I think they will tell you that that's probably more valuable than just the money that we've given them. Now, you can't dismiss that. Our average investment is about $2 million. And remember, that didn't exist in Tucson a couple of years ago. But we have found equally as important is the time that we spend nurturing our startups.
So when you're looking to invest, besides something that's going to be truly revolutionary, what are other things you look for, whether it's in a founder or the team or the product itself?
The team, the people, their passion toward what they do, their realistic approach to what they're doing and the outcome of that. We have turned down some investments, even U of A related. They might come to us and said, yeah, our company's worth $20 million. So, well, no, it might be worth $4 million. So we've had some hard conversations with people how one values intellectual property, pre-revenue, pre-patent. It's been challenging to get people to agree on that. So valuation is always a conversation, but so far it's been the people. And almost all of our business now is coming to us from people who have referred other people to us. And we will be fully deployed in both funds here shortly.
That's great. So do you have any other tips for entrepreneurs in general?
I've talked about this a lot, and I think it's very relevant to my personal situation. And that is give it your all. If this is a hobby, if you're dabbling in a startup, you're going to fail. I really believe that you have to take unbelievable risk. I think you cannot have a plan B. This is plan A, B, and C. If you really want it to work, you and your colleagues are going to put everything you can, every ounce of energy, every moment of sleepless nights into your startup. And then you need to be a little lucky. You need to be in the right place at the right time and give luck a chance. I think that's the chemistry really that I've experienced in a successful product launch or a successful startup company is to, do everything you can to make sure it's successful. Don't have a plan B and hope you get a little lucky.
And we've talked about it before in terms of a founder actually being invested in their own company before they come to see you. So they need a little skin in the game beyond just the IP that they've developed, beyond just putting their 40 hours a week or 60 hours or 80 hours a week into the company. They really need to be all in.
Yeah, we've seen some companies that may never need us. Max out your credit cards, mortgage your house, borrow some money from your mother, do whatever you can, because that's totally non-dilutive. You're going to own all of your company if you can launch that. And at one point in our time, we owned all of our company. And everything we did beyond that diluted it. So if you can pull it off without venture capital, without those kind of financial resources, you should. If you need to scale, you're going to need other people's money. But you're right. We treat things that have started up using their own, friends and family, as they say, or angels, to help launch the company. But we've also come into things that are just an idea. We'll help put an idea together and wrap a company around a really smart idea.
So switching gears a little bit, you are very active with Rio Nuevo. So I think just give us a little overview of what Rio Nuevo has done, your role, and then why it's so important for both Tucson, but also in particularly entrepreneurs.
I got involved because we had moved our company downtown. And I think it shocked a lot of people. Unbeknownst to me, it shocked legislative leadership. Rio Nuevo in 2010 had failed miserably. It was launched in 2000. They had wasted $250 million, and the legislature was about to shut it down. And my phone rang one Saturday, and the woman on the other line said, "Will you please hold for the president?" And I cupped the phone and hollered to my wife. I said, "Liz, the president's calling me." And she goes, "Why would he be calling you?" And then the president came on, President Steve Pierce, the president of the Arizona Senate, the president of the United States. And I said, "Oh," and he said, "You sound disappointed." And I said, "Well, I thought you were the president." And he said, "What the hell would the president be calling you for?" And so he said, "I just want you to know I've appointed you to the Rio Nuevo board. And you don't really have a choice. We want people with skin in the game, to your point. We want to make a difference downtown. It's wasted an incredible amount of money. We want business people to run it, and you have 6 months." That was May of 2010. The only smart thing we did was go visit San Diego. Rio Nuevo is a TIF, tax incremental financing district. It uses sales tax to create businesses that create more sales tax. And every other city in America had been very successful with these. One of the most successful was San Diego, California. Downtown San Diego is entirely a TIF. But unlike what Tucson was trying, San Diego chose to partner with private developers. So every project in downtown San Diego has a private sector partner, big or small, all the way up to Padres Stadium. So we came back with that attitude. Our money was limited. Tucson was unknown to most commercial lenders. We said we really need to find ready, willing, and able partners. That was 22 projects ago and 8 years ago. And every project that Rio Nuevo has launched now, several $100 million of projects, we have a private sector partner. And it's been unbelievably successful at a time when Tucson was really ready for this. I think everyone wanted to see our downtown reemerge. The light rail was instrumental. That was another accident. But it created this waterfront property. Businesses wanted to be along the line, and they wanted to be involved in this innovative spirit. And even through the pandemic, our meeting was yesterday, and we've approved almost $300 million of new projects, new hotels and new office buildings, and projects of unbelievable scale that are coming from Salt Lake, from Denver, from Boston. Now, Tucson's really still on the radar.
That's great news. So of those projects, are there ones that you're particularly excited about? I know Sunshine Mile I'm looking forward to. That leads from downtown over to our area of town. What are some other ones that you're excited about?
Sunshine Mile's fun. It's a 2-mile corridor that we get to reimagine. And it's basically going to be destination retail. Think Palm Springs or Dana Point, or this will be really cool, small stores, very walkable, very drivable. We're proud to be involved in that. We have launched a 20-story tower downtown that will have the largest retail component in downtown Tucson, 2 floors of almost 60,000 square feet of retail. On top of that will be 5 levels of parking, 4 levels of office, and 4 more levels of apartments. If anyone's been downtown lately, all of that crane activity is residential. We're building almost 5,000 units simultaneously. The Batista we launched a few weeks ago. That's a 240 apartment unit on the west side of the river. It's going to be a beautiful mixed-use project. And on June 9th at the mayor and council meeting, hopefully they will approve the conversion of One South Church, the former TEP headquarters, to a 5-star luxury hotel. And it's being developed by a company out of Phoenix that has developed all the Montage. Montage.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, coming to Tucson, Arizona. So, there's a lot of things happening. We're concerned about our small businesses. trying to do what we can to help shore them up. The revenue, the restaurant business, the entertainment business, places like the Fox and the Rialto, the Symphony, taking a huge hit. But we expect all of this to come back, maybe even stronger than it was.
And you brought Rio Nuevo did some really innovative programming in response to COVID. So I know you did the consultancy sessions for businesses that were trying to apply for the relief funding. And then you guys have some other programs that you've brought online, right?
Yeah. PPP was a mess. I don't know, how many people tried to apply for that, but it's really complicated. And moreover, getting the forgiveness is going to be really complicated. So we continue to consult with our merchant partners about how that works. We launched a couple $1 million of stimulus funds, which was grant-based. So we've given out about $1.3 million of short-term money to help keep businesses open. We just approved yesterday paying for the COVID testing for all the Rio Nuevo restaurants. That's about over 100 restaurants in the district now. And we know that testing's a big part of their ability to reopen.
And then there's another incentive program for small businesses that are willing to take over, is it unused property downtown now? And there's some incentives so some of our entrepreneurs might be interested to learn a little bit more about that program.
There's always we're opportunistic. There's really not a set menu of things that if you do this, we'll do this. We react constantly to a private sector developer who has an interesting idea. And if it will improve the economics, the economy of downtown, we'll engage. We've gotten involved in co-working spaces. We've helped launch restaurants. We've helped launch retail, hotel, office. So big or small, if it's in the Rio Nuevo district, we will help you start it.
Okay, last question, then we're going to turn it over to see if there's any audience questions. So if you have questions, now's a good time to type it in the comments. So do you have any advice for small businesses or entrepreneurs that are trying to make it through COVID?
Well, we're doing it. My son's best friend works for Hulu, and they just told him to don't worry about coming back. Historically, these millennial businesses believed that to attract smart young people, they had to be destinations. So they had foosball and video games and beer kegs, and you played volleyball at your breaks, and you skateboarded around the building. All of these things, have gone virtual. Google, and they're telling their workforce, we've never been more productive. So you're not obligated to show up. You're obligated to keep being productive and find interesting ways to do your job. For an entrepreneur, that's a dramatic difference, because all of us have historically focused on a place. Where am I going to do this? Do I need an office? Do I need a co-working space? Do I need a building? Do I need a warehouse? Well, what we've demonstrated is no. You can seriously be 100% virtual. Your organization can be in multiple locations simultaneously, and you can produce a product, sell and manage a business, and never leave your house. So I think it's going to change how people view startup. We're also seeing a lot of crowdfunding organizations come together. The SEC's relaxed the rules around a startup equity program. So you could seriously raise equity now in a virtual environment, and that's been unheard of historically. So I think it's an opportunity for people to rethink space. And you see restaurants. We just approved a restaurant yesterday that's going to be a ghost kitchen. It will not have any patrons. It's delivery only. And I think those are the changes that we've all adapted to as part of the response to the pandemic. We talked to Cox Cable the other day about how this has affected them. They don't have their drivers setting your cable up anymore, so they leave it on your doorstep. 86% of the people have been able to install their
Mm-hmm.
own cable. And it's got them rethinking how you run the whole business. And
Mm-hmm.
those are the opportunities, I think, that create innovation and entrepreneurship. And can you take advantage of this environment to respond to the ongoing value of all of us staying virtual?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we have some questions.
Okay, we have questions kind of all over. We'll start with Mika Vance Kinder. What accomplishment are you most proud of? And what is your greatest regret?
My greatest accomplishment is about 410 miles west of us. It's my son, Tyler. He was born when I was 40. And I think I had a very different attitude about having a child at that age because I made everything. I made every ball game and every play and every event, and we're still very close. My only regret really is that I didn't figure this out sooner. I was in my 40s when I started my first company, and I was stuck in an employer-employee relationship and dependent on that paycheck. And it was really hard to take the leap to, having somebody else pay you money to risking your own opportunities. And it turned out to be unbelievable for me and my colleagues. I think someone told me at Providence, we made over 400 millionaires. What if I had started out in my 20s?
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing I regret is not taking the leap maybe a little earlier.
Thank you. And then we have Jordan Ochoa. We'll go there just because you were just talking about Rio Nuevo. So it sounds like Jordan's a little more interested in getting to know how to get involved with downtown and pitching.
Send me an email, fjmccusker@gmail.com.
There we go.
There we go.
So easy. Okay. And then, okay. I'm a little bit curious about what you shared questions that you ask companies that you're looking to invest in. What are questions that you ask yourself? What are questions that entrepreneurs should be asking themselves?
Before you go see someone about an investment, you really need to understand your business and the ability to convince other people you have a sound idea. We typically send back the first pitch deck we see. The forecasts are often incredibly unrealistic. Year one, we're going to do $50,000. And year two, we're going to do $8 million. And year five, we're going to do $100 million. And say, okay, that's probably not going to happen. So let's really decide what you think you're really capable of producing.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that we reject is often market size conversation. We're going to open up a donut factory and it's a $100 billion market. Well, yeah, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. So we really want people to understand the nature of their business, the risk inherent in their business, and be practical about what they think they can actually produce and replicate. Investors invest in things that are scalable. If your business isn't scalable, it's a hobby. It's going to be something that your family might engage with or your friends might engage with. But if it's not going to produce scalable returns, it's not going to be interesting to venture capital. So it's changed us to look at things that just might be a neat idea to something that really is going to create a scalable, world-changing product.
Thanks. And then we have a question from Becky Palick. Could you talk more about your don't have a plan B, all in type of way of thinking about startups, and then maybe share what those sleepless nights look like for you in the beginning?
I think if you don't go all in, you're not giving it your all, and you've diminished your chances for success. And you're doing that because you're afraid. We've all gone through that, and I went through that in spades in my 40s, because I'm 40 something now, talking about giving up a very lucrative executive career and a nice salary to, produce my own income. But I think the reason I was successful is that I could not fail. Failure was not an option. So we found every way we could to make certain that our product was successful. We went months without a paycheck. We were the sales force. We were the people that told the story about our company. You make sure it happens. People that dabble in this, are generally unsuccessful in my experience. So maybe the whole family doesn't have to go at risk, but maybe you have someone that's working and you leave your job to launch a startup. And I think that particularly if you're 24, that's a very different scenario than it was for me at 44. I believe you've got to go all in, and what you lose sleep over is literally the next day. It's the oh shit moments that, oh my God, if I don't get this done today, we're not going to close on that deal, or the bank's not going to do this loan, or, this product's going to fail. The other thing that happens in business is the personnel issues. There's every day there's some drama, between people, and you now, because this is your business, you are the go-to person to resolve that and to create an environment that's conflict-free. And that's probably the biggest challenge as we got bigger and bigger and bigger. When you have 5 people, the camaraderie is pretty easy to manage. We had 11,000 employees, and we wanted them to be as loyal and as fun and as devoted and as drama-free as the original group was. And we were able to succeed that. I mean, not all the time, but generally we were always viewed as a great place to work. Those are the kind of things that'll keep you up. But yeah, for sure, go all in.
Thanks for sharing more of your experience with that. Kind of along the same lines, could you share your refined elevator pitch? Dre Thompson, our exec VP, is asking.
Well, Dre, you little troublemaker. So I'll tell you ours. UAVenture Capital is a seed money or first round fund dedicated to University of Arizona Technology.
Short and sweet.
That's all you need to tell people. It can easily be 20 words, but it needs to describe what you do, the purpose of what you do, and why it's interesting to other people. And I got to do that for Providence. I wasn't a business school major. I didn't know what an elevator pitch was. And we knew we wanted to launch a healthcare company. And I went to a healthcare conference. And I'm sitting on a sofa before a lecture, and the person sits down next to me, introduces himself as a venture capitalist. And he says, "Tell me what you do." And I said, "Well, we've launched the first home healthcare business in the United States. We can do everything a hospital can do in your own home." And he stopped and said, "Can you come talk to my partners?" And I go, "Yeah, where are you?" He said, "We're Park Avenue, New York." And I said, "Yeah, next time I'm in New York, I'll come by." And he said, "No, can you today come with me and meet my partners and tell them your story?" And that's the only thing I had told him. And we did. We flew to New York together. I met his partners in this extraordinary Park Avenue venture capital firm. And in 10 minutes, telling them what we wanted to do, we had yet to launch. They said, "How much money do you need?" And I said, "I don't know, $5 million. And he said, "How much of the company will you give us for that?" And I said, "I don't know, a third." And he reached his hand across the table and said, "You have a deal." I believe that came from that short burst of description that I later learned is what everyone now rehearses as an elevator pitch.
That's great. Okay. We have a question from Roger Dahlgren. Do you think the changes wrought by the COVID pandemic are permanent? What are the long-term implications for the market for office space, restaurant space, which was that question was also brought up by Test Price.
What we see happening with these operators of considerable scale is they're skating to where the puck is going. No one has stopped these huge projects. They're 2 years out. And they absolutely believe that everything will normalize, but moreover, create more demand for Tucson, Arizona, maybe than ever before. So we see more outside investors interested in office space and retail space. The One South Church building that I described, developed by the people that developed the Montage, envision a bottom floor restaurant and a patio that opens up there into church, where the Rendezvous apartments are being built. It's an extraordinary vision created during a time when everything else is shut down, because they're convinced that it's going to come back even bigger than it ever was. The restaurants that are in business today, I think we may lose a third of them. The smaller mom and pop operators, the triple P loans have given them some breathing room. But now imagine if you're a 50-seat restaurant and your capacity is now reduced to 25. And in the restaurant business, the profit margin's about 7% to begin with. I just don't know how they're going to survive that in the long term. But the bigger operators, the operators that are interested in scale, the people that are building these new monolithic projects are rushing into Tucson. So it's a mixed bag. We're going to see some businesses fail, and we're going to see these huge projects build for a future that none of us today appreciate.
Okay. And then we'll take it to a different note. Mika got to see Squirrel at Udall. Great performance, and is curious about future concert dates.
So Squirrel is dark. We are also all sequestered at home. We've been terribly unsuccessful trying to be a Zoom band. Rock bands cue off of each other, so we have not even been able to practice for 10 weeks. We are planning our second album. So you can watch for that. In the meantime, all of our recordings are available on Spotify or iTunes. And every now and then we get a spike. I receive the royalties for the band. And last month we got $66 of royalty income.
Wow.
Yep. All of it came from Europe. So you never know.
You never know where their market is.
Your fourth career will be a touring rock band in Europe. Yeah,
that would be fine with me. Yes, my bandmates all have day jobs. We were invited to tour Europe, and I would have gone in a minute, but the keyboard player is a physician, and the singer is a pharmacist, and they go, "We can't go to Europe." I said, "Oh, okay." So maybe as we age and we all retire, we'll still be younger than the Stones. So, we'll go on tour.
Then you'll go on your world tour. Well, great. So thanks so much, Fletcher, for spending the morning with us. I just wanted to say Fletcher and UAVC have been so important for Startup Tucson. Fletcher personally sponsors our idea funding prize. So anybody that's pitched for that prize, a big thank you to Fletcher and UAVC for investing in early stage ideas and really sharing your wisdom with the community today.
Thank you. It's great fun. I appreciate everything you're doing. It's really been refreshing to see, young people emerge in this innovation economy. I'm very hopeful for Tucson, and thank you for everything you guys are doing.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Go wash your
Bye,
hands.
everyone.
Bye.
Wash your hands and see you at IP Basics at 10 a.m.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.